Red-eyed Theresa May has finally clinched a deal on Brexit after all-night talks in a move that may have saved her career, for now. EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker announced he would recommend Britain has made sufficient progress in a major breakthrough 534 days after Britain voted to leave. If the 15-page resolution is agreed by 27 EU leaders, Britain can finally start talking about its crucial future trade with the continent. The PM faced Tory plotting to oust her as she finally sealed the deal on three issues: Northern Ireland, the divorce bill and the rights of 3.2 million EU citizens living in the UK, in a pre-dawn trip to Brussels. EU chiefs had made clear the European Council, which meets next week for the last time until March, would only move to trade talks when there was sufficient progress on these issues. But both Mrs May's DUP allies and European Council President Donald Tusk sounded a stark warning about the future. Mr Tusk said during a transition period the UK will respect the whole of EU law, including new law, a red line for Brexiteers. And he said the UK must follow European courts, pay into the EU budget and all related obligations during that transition, which he said seems to be the only reasonable solution. Mr Tusk said today's agreement is obviously the personal success of Prime Minister Theresa May, but warned, "We all know the most difficult challenge is still ahead. So much time has been devoted to the easier part of the task." Meanwhile, the DUP told the BBC, "We cautioned the Prime Minister about proceeding with this agreement in its present form given the issues which still need to be resolved and the views expressed to us by many of her own party colleagues." However, it was ultimately a matter for the Prime Minister to decide. Crucially today, Mrs May said she will guarantee no return of a hard border to Northern Ireland, something she had previously stopped short of. And she said the divorce bill to the EU will be fair to British taxpayers, allowing us to invest more in schools and the NHS. She did not repeat the entirely wrong and pound, 350 metres a week figure used Brexiteers. Mr Juncker said the deal would ensure a cheap process for EU citizens to stay. Brexit created great uncertainty for those citizens and their families, he said. Today, we bring back the certainty. Crucially, he said the same goes for UK citizens living in the EU 27. This implies Mrs May has finally won the reciprocal promise she wanted, that all British expats living in the EU can stay there. But it appears to have come at a cost of extra compromise. The hardline DUP agreed to Mrs May's deal on the Northern Ireland border last night after several changes. DUP chief Arlene Foster had torpedoed her hopes on Monday by phoning the PM midway through a 3-hour lunch with EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. Ms Foster refused to have any regulatory alignment between Northern Ireland and the EU, which officials thought was needed to stop a damaging hard border with the Republic. But this time, Juncker's powerful head of cabinet Martin Selmayr tweeted a picture of white smoke, a symbol of choosing a new pope. The PM arrived grinning before 6 a.m. UK time after speaking to Mr Juncker and Irish Taoiseach Leo Varadkar on the phone last night. The Tory leader had already missed her first deadline of October but was facing mutiny, even a plot to oust her, from her own Brexit peers if she gave away too much control to Europe. The PM said the deal was significant improvement on a draft document earlier this week. She added, "It hasn't been easy for either side." Mr Juncker added, "Today's result is, of course, a compromise." DUP leader Arlene Foster said today, "On Monday we were unhappy with the text when we received it in late morning. We felt there wasn't enough clarity, particularly round the very important issue of access to the GB market. There have been changes right throughout the text and we believe there have been 6 substantive changes, For me it means there's no red line down the Irish Sea. There are still huge problems to come, as Mrs May said. The Northern Ireland issue would only be fully resolved in the second phase of talks. But for now she has won a victory that may, for now, stop plots to oust her by her own party, which had been rumbling over fears she'd give too much away to the EU. Read the full EU/UK report.pdf.